Bundle up, sweethearts. Our artist is heading to the Canadian Rockies with her judgmental cat and a suitcase full of trust issues. The mountain air is crisp, but not as crisp as the jawline she's about to encounter. Time to watch this city girl navigate her way into trouble, and maybe into love. Chapter 2. The Long Road North. Pablo voiced his displeasure at the cat carrier with a sound somewhere between a growl and a sob.
I know,
Darcy muttered, wrestling him inside while trying to avoid his betrayed gaze.
But Mrs. Chen can't take care of you this time.
The elderly neighbor had picked today of all days to visit her grandchildren. Dawn hadn't quite broken over Toronto as Darcy loaded her last bag into her Subaru. The trunk was a Tetris game of art supplies, winter gear, and far too many sweaters, most still with their tags on, panic purchased from the clearance rack yesterday. Pablo's carrier occupied the passenger seat like a judgmental companion, his golden eyes tracking her every move as she settled behind the wheel. Her tablet sat in the center console, the final unfinished panel haunting her peripheral vision. She'd have to work on it during rest stops. Her followers were already speculating about the delay in her usual posting schedule. The city melted away in her rearview mirror, gray buildings giving way to gray highway giving way to gray sky. Pablo dozed off somewhere past Hamilton, his soft snores a counterpoint to the indie rock playlist she'd labeled Main Character Energy, in a moment of self-aware irony.
You know what's funny?
She asked her sleeping cat, as suburban sprawl transformed into winter bare farmland.
5 years of drawing myself finding love, and I still don't know what it's supposed to look like.
She glanced at her tablet.
But hey, at least I know what sells.
Hours ticked by. She stopped at a Tim Hortons, ordering coffee strong enough to pass for motor oil. While Pablo stretched his legs in the back seat, refusing to return to his carrier with aristocratic disdain, she scrolled through her comics comments.
I bet she ends up with the coffee shop owner from issue #189.
No way. She needs someone completely new, a fresh start.
As long as she gets her happy ending.
Darcy's coffee turned bitter on her tongue. If they wanted happy endings, they should read fairy tales, not semi-autobiographical webcomics about real people with real scars. The highway narrowed as it climbed into the Rockies, trees pressing closer, peaks looming larger. Snow started falling somewhere past Banff. Fat, lazy flakes that melted on her windshield. Her GPS cheerfully announced she was 30 minutes from Pine Lake Lodge, but the growing darkness suggested winter storm odds were better than happy ending odds. She rounded a bend and caught her first glimpse of the lodge through the trees, warm lights glowing in defiance of the gathering gloom, smoke curling from multiple chimneys like something from a Christmas card. Her cartoon self would have sighed dreamily at the sight. The real Darcy white-knuckled the steering wheel and muttered,
Well, that's aggressively picturesque.
Pablo meowed in agreement, or perhaps in concern at her tone. The final stretch of road wound through pristine forest. No streetlights, no buildings, nothing but snow-laden pines and deepening shadows. Her headlights caught occasional glimpses of wildlife, a fox's retreating tail, a deer's startled pose. Perfect reference material for her comic's big finale, assuming she survived what was starting to feel like the opening scene of a horror movie. The lodge's driveway emerged from the darkness like an invitation, or a dare. Darcy pulled into a spot facing the main entrance, where golden light spilled from floor-to-ceiling windows onto fresh snow. Through the glass, she could see figures moving around a massive stone fireplace, their shadows dancing like characters waiting for their cues. She sat there for a long moment, engine idling, heat fogging her windows. Pablo stretched and put his paw on her arm, either in comfort or impatience.
Right.
She said, pulling out her tablet and opening a new sketch layer.
Time to start pretending.
Her stylus moved in practiced strokes, blocking out the basic shapes first. The steep pitch of the roof, the commanding presence of the stone walls. Usually, this was where she'd start adding her signature touches. Softening the angles, warming the shadows, creating the kind of place her readers would dream about visiting. But something stopped her. The lodge demanded honesty from her hands, each line coming out sharp and true. The shadows beneath the eaves grew deeper, not lighter. The window's warm glow seemed to emphasize the darkness surrounding them, rather than chase it away. Even the snow looked less like cartoon sparkles and more like a blank canvas waiting to be marked. She stared at the stark beauty she'd captured, so different from her usual style. There was something almost threatening in its reality, its refusal to be transformed into comic book whimsy. She closed the tablet without saving. Some things were better left undrawn.